Welcome listeners to Red Hunt, where I delve into the captivating and sometimes tumultuous world of relationships on Reddit. Get ready for jaw-dropping stories, heartfelt confessions, and plenty of unexpected twists. So hit that subscribe button and join me on this gripping journey. Female friends and potential manipulation? AmITheA. Am I being unreasonable about having female friends? I've been dating this guy for about 5 months. Tonight we had a bit of an argument. He has quite a few female friends, some of whom he has slept with in the past. I'm completely fine with him being friends with them, but I did mention that I'm not comfortable with them spending time alone together in their homes, and he agreed. However, tonight I had to change our dinner plans because he was running an hour late and I needed to be home. We rescheduled for tomorrow night instead. But tonight, he ended up meeting one of his friends, and she came over to his place. They watched TV and caught up. He told me about it, and I expressed my unhappiness, feeling that he did it as payback for me canceling dinner. He claims that she happened to be in the same area as him and randomly offered him a ride home instead of him getting a taxi. It seems like a strange coincidence to me. He argues that he doesn't see why he should spend a Saturday night alone just because I canceled dinner, and his friend gave him a lift home from the train station. Since she wasn't dressed to go out, they couldn't go for a drink or anything. He apologized, but he said he can't promise that similar circumstances won't arise in the future. He believes I have trust issues, and at least he was honest about it. He asked if I would rather him lie to me next time. I responded by saying that I don't understand why I don't have the option for him to simply not do it next time and go out in public instead. He thinks there's no difference between him hanging out at home with a male friend. I explained that if he had slept with the male friend in the past, I would still have the same issue. He is straight. He also argues that being at home with her is no different from being out. Personally, I'm just more comfortable with them in public, although I can't explain why. He did apologize and say he understands, but then he also kind of blamed me for the situation, because I couldn't make the dinner time and apparently have trust issues. He stated that if I hadn't canceled dinner, he wouldn't have seen her. He claims I have serious trust issues and asks if I'd prefer him to lie to me next time. Obviously, I wouldn't. I'm just wondering if I'm being unreasonable here. He has a way of turning things around on me and making me feel guilty. My friends have told me that he has been manipulative in the past, but I'm not sure if they're just being overprotective or if I'm missing something. He is generally nice and helpful, and everything I want in a partner when he's not like this. But this is the first time it's happened regarding his female friends. I don't believe he would sleep with her again, but I can't seem to make him understand that I simply don't like it. It's understandable that you're uncomfortable with your boyfriend spending time alone with female friends that he slept with in the past, especially after you had expressed your boundaries. His actions of inviting one of these friends over after you had to cancel plans can definitely feel like payback rather than a coincidence. It's concerning that he's trying to shift the blame onto you and make you feel guilty for having trust issues. Your friends may be onto something if they've noticed manipulative behavior in the past. Trust your instincts and have a conversation with him about your concerns. My boyfriend said he can't focus on being a father. To begin with, I want to clarify that I do not have any negative feelings towards my boyfriend. I simply need assistance on what steps to take in moving forward. My boyfriend has been struggling with various mental health issues, specifically depression, anxiety, and suicidal thoughts. He reached out to a counselor recently, but I haven't received any updates about it. These struggles have been ongoing for years, but they have intensified over the past few months. As a result, our relationship has been facing difficulties, but that is not my main concern. I honestly believe that we will eventually break up, and that is all right. However, my concern at the moment is that he is not contributing to caring for our 2-year-old son. He works long shifts, ranging from 12 to 13 hours, for 5 to 6 days a week. I do not expect or ask him to help with household chores, and I am perfectly fine with that. Being a stay-at-home mom, I can handle those responsibilities. I also take care of cooking, preparing his lunches, doing his laundry, and so on. He mentioned that he needs time to work on himself and expressed a desire to go back to the gym. I fully supported this idea, but we did not discuss specifics, such as when or at what times he would go, except that it would be on his days off. I had no issue with that. He has been going to the gym every morning he is off, spending 3 to 4 hours there. He wakes up early and sets alarms. We share a room with our son, who sleeps in his crib, so these alarms wake him up every morning. It also happens during the weekdays, but I don't complain since my boyfriend has to work. However, my son ends up waking up and staying awake for the entire day, with maybe 1 to 2 naps. For the past 2 to 3 months, I have been waking up between 4 a.m. and 6 a.m. every day. I asked my boyfriend if he could use his Apple Watch as an alarm because it vibrates. The vibration might not wake him up, but the noise alone would wake me up and I would wake him up. However, this turned into an argument. During the argument, he stated that he never gets any time for himself. I mentioned how I have been taking on most of the responsibilities for our son. For example, he spends very little time with our son, at most 30 minutes to an hour, and he avoids putting him to bed or bathing him. I told him that it's difficult to not even have a morning off. I'm not asking for a day off. He responded by saying that due to his depression, he cannot focus on being a father, our relationship, or anything else. He needs to prioritize himself. His lack of effort in our relationship is not my concern. I am genuinely worried that he will become an inconsistent father. Although he expresses a desire for equal custody, I struggle to see how he would be able to handle it. He becomes easily upset with our son over every little thing. What steps can I take to help him at least try to establish a bond with our son? I don't want my son to grow up without a father, but I fear that an inconsistent father may have negative consequences. Is my perspective misguided? I appreciate any help or advice that can be offered. My main goal is to foster a relationship between them. It sounds like you've been doing an incredible job as a stay-at-home mom, taking care of the household and supporting your boyfriend through his mental struggles. It's completely valid for you to feel concerned about his inability to focus on being a father due to his depression. It may be helpful to have an open and honest conversation with him about the importance of consistency and involvement in your son's life, and to explore potential solutions together, such as therapy or seeking additional support. I was hurt when my husband completely left me out of his bio for an article published about him. I met my husband when we were teenagers. He was in a band with one of my male friends, which is how we initially connected. However, after high school, we lost touch when I moved away for college. Fast forward 20 years, and I moved my parents in with me in 2012. At the same time, he was raising his 2 sons on his own as their biological mother was absent from their lives. We reconnected on Facebook and both found ourselves single at that moment. I greatly admire my husband for his strength and commitment in being there for his children when many men would not have stuck around. Despite struggling financially as a single parent, he managed to get by. He had given up on his music for a while, but recently rediscovered his passion. Although he had sold most of his equipment, he still held on to an acoustic guitar his father gave him. He started playing again from scratch. When we got back together, he had acquired some basic equipment. His studio was a corner of his living room or sometimes his bedroom, with just his acoustic guitar and a phone to record videos. While music was more of a hobby than a career for him, it was something he was always passionate about. Music was also significant to me, and it became a shared passion that brought us closer. During the early stages of our relationship, he and his father formed an acoustic duo. Eventually, they added a drummer and a bassist. I was supportive throughout this process, often listening to their rehearsals over FaceTime. I even traveled 8 hours to watch their performances and recorded videos for their social media pages, using my own photos. When we moved in together, I ensured our new house had a separate building that could serve as his studio, fulfilling his lifelong dream. I took on most of the household expenses, allowing him to focus his entire income on music. Seeing him happy in his element brings me joy. Over the past few years, their popularity as a band has grown within our city. From playing at a corner table in a restaurant, they have now become a 4-piece band with stage lighting and fog machines. This progress largely occurred after we moved in together since he could afford better equipment and had a proper rehearsal space. Meanwhile, my parents and I take care of the boys, allowing him to focus on rehearsals and gigs without worrying about leaving them alone. The band is gaining attention and playing in other cities. In the last 8 months, he even joined a second band, further expanding his musical career. This band has also built a solid reputation that continues to grow. Now, here's the issue. Recently, a local music association recognized my husband for his achievements in the local music scene. A published article featured his self-written bio, which extensively discussed his musical journey. He mentioned starting to play at 12, past and present bandmates, and other significant people in his life. He emphasized his dedication to his sons and his temporary break from music to support them. He credited a friend for reigniting his musical passion and acknowledged his father for approaching him about forming the acoustic duo. He named all the band members in both groups but abruptly concluded by mentioning the bands again and inviting readers to attend their shows. What left me stunned and hurt was that there was no mention whatsoever of me in the entire bio. I wouldn't have even known he had a significant other based on his words. I have done so much to support him, taking over expenses so he can pursue his passion, working multiple jobs, and taking on a maternal role for his sons. I handle all their teachers and medical appointments. I've attended his gigs, recorded videos and taken photos, and even gone out of my way to help him during unexpected situations, like picking him up with his gear when his tire went flat. I have also contributed to his music studio by providing furniture, lights, soundproofing pads, and even a mini fridge. Yet, he fails to consider me an integral part of his journey. Even if I hadn't done all of this, it's common sense to include your spouse in a bio. A simple acknowledgement like I wouldn't be where I am today without my beautiful wife would have sufficed. When I confronted him about this, he brushed it off, claiming he didn't mention anyone important. He even mentioned his late mother, who bought him his first guitar. It's not that I seek recognition from others. What bothers me is that he does not view me as significant in his musical journey. I have been there from the beginning, supporting him financially, emotionally, and logistically through thick and thin. To compare my contributions to his late mother's gift to a 12-year-old child diminishes the level of commitment and support I have provided. Additionally, neglecting to mention his mom does not justify disregarding me, his wife. He dismissed my concerns as being dramatic and stated that it wouldn't have made sense to mention me in an article about his music. However, he mentioned numerous other people, including his sons, while I have been by his side throughout this entire journey, physically and metaphorically, near the stage. That's really frustrating and hurtful, especially when you've been there supporting him from the very beginning. It's understandable that you would expect some recognition or acknowledgement for everything you've done, considering the sacrifices you've made for him and his music. It's not about seeking validation from others, but rather feeling appreciated and valued by your own spouse. It's important to communicate your feelings with him and explain why it's hurtful to be left out. Hopefully, he can understand and make it up to you. Why would he not reach out after going out of his way to tell me he would? It's going to sound like limerence. I'm not a creep, just a girl who really likes a guy. So I had been going to this doctor's office for 5 months for a work injury. I ended up falling for one of the care technicians. We had met a few times, talked on the phone when I would call about appointments. He even had some kind words to say when I had to cancel due to my grandma passing away. You can tell he is a very kind person and genuinely cares about people. He also said, "Oh, you look cute to me one day." So eventually I worked up the nerve when he and I were in a room alone to say, "Before you go, I just want to say, you seem like a nice person. I don't usually do this kind of thing, but here's my number if you ever want to use it. I know you're at work, you don't even have to say anything, just putting that out there." He looked so flattered, smiling so big, hand over his face like he was embarrassed. We talked very briefly under the circumstances. He goes, "Oh, and you're a photographer? Are you on social media?" "Oh yeah, I see. I'ma look you up," all smiles. He leaves the room. The doctor comes in and tells me I don't have to come back because my injury has healed. So I won't be seeing him again. This was the end of September 2023, 4 months ago. Doc leaves. Few minutes later, my guy comes back in all smiles, looking at me to come take me to checkout. He explains to me he's giving me my paperwork, etc., and makes a point to look up from the desk and say, "And I will be reaching out." Made. 4 months later, he never did reach out, and I'm still really sad about it. Maybe I'm overthinking, but I kind of made a fool of myself at checkout and asked if I was all good to go after he had just said, "You know how it works. I'm gonna get your paperwork," but I was nervous. Understandable, I think. I also know that he did look at my socials because I looked at my page's impressions, views, and they spiked on my photography page and Instagram that day, which I'm not active on and usually get 0 views lol. Also, I kind of ended up finding him on Facebook and Instagram, did not add or contact him. He does not know I found him. It seemed like he was going through a lot and struggling with depression based on his posts. I think his old relationship of over a decade ended when he was cheated on and left. Maybe that's why he didn't want to get involved with me. Maybe he isn't ready to see new people. But why would he go out of his way to say he would contact me and then not? He seems like a kind person, so why let someone down like that? He since has deleted his social media too, which tells me he might be working on himself. Also may be important to note that he is definitely a little older than me, looks late 30s, early 40s. Again, I'm 27, but he knew my age, he saw my medical chart lol. I'm still hoping I run into him somewhere, or hope to find an excuse to go back to his urgent care lol. But I would never do anything obviously weird. That would have the opposite effect of what I want. I cannot get him off my mind, and I feel like if I ran into him again then maybe he'd give me a chance. Maybe the timing just wasn't right for him. I found out through looking at his Instagram photos that he is related to an old coworker of mine, and another coworker who is in my building in another department. Someone I used to be close with on my old shift, a third coworker lol, is the uncle of the first coworker I mentioned, and I saw that he followed my guy on Instagram. But my guy wasn't following him back. I don't know. Would it be crazy to mention that I happened to see he was following this guy who I gave my number to and try to find an in or closure? Do you think there is still hope that he might one day decide to reach out to me? I probably sound obsessive, but I swear I'm not that weird, guys lol. Just really saw something in this man. Sounds like you had a strong crush on this care technician, but unfortunately, he never reached out despite saying he would. It's possible that he could be going through some personal issues, like depression, based on his social media posts. It's hard to say if he'll ever reach out, but it's best not to get your hopes up too much and maybe try to move on. Crush called me awkward. So, here's the story. I'm generally a quiet and introverted girl, but I don't usually consider myself socially awkward. However, when I'm around someone I'm attracted to, I start acting like a complete idiot, haha. With other people though, I can hold a conversation and I think I look pretty good with my outfits, hair, and makeup. So most of the time, I think I come off as a bit standoffish or closed off rather than weird. A few months ago, I started a new job in healthcare. There's only one guy who works at my office, while the rest of my coworkers are female. Of course, he happens to be exactly my type both physically and personality-wise. He's kind of a nerdy cute type, not really awkward but more boyish and innocent. The other girls tease him like a little brother, but I don't think any of them are actually interested in him, so my crush on him feels a bit strange, and I haven't told anyone about it. We work together as a team, and I find myself getting nervous around him but feeling comfortable talking to others. If someone were paying attention, they'd probably notice that I tend to avoid him and only talk to him when necessary. I act overly formal and polite towards him, while I can casually talk to my other coworkers and discuss things outside of work. The guy and I have had a bit of small talk and joked around, but it's only a fraction of the interaction we both have with other coworkers. He's generally easygoing, but there was this one time when he had to train me on something, and we were alone in a room. He actually said, "I'm sorry, this is really weird," so it seems like there's some mutual awkwardness between us, for whatever reason. Anyway, yesterday I was being trained on a new task by a supervisor known for being tough and no nonsense. I hadn't worked with her before, so I wanted to make a good impression. Of course, my crush was in the room attending to a patient, and it happened to be for the task I needed to learn. The supervisor noticed and said, "Go in with the crush's name right now." I hesitated and asked, "Are you sure?" She replied, "Yeah, just tell them you're training." So I knocked on the door, opened it, and since I was already a bit stressed, seeing my crush in the room made it worse. Both he and the patient looked surprised, and I blurted out something like, "Hey, is it okay if I shadow?" "Hi, sorry, I'm AmITheA. I'm training today. Nice to meet you." The patient just stared and didn't say anything, and after a moment, my crush continued with his work. They were almost finished, so he and I left the room to get the doctor. As soon as he walked out, he laughed and said, "That was so awkward." I couldn't tell if he was referring to the situation or me in general, but I chuckled and said, "I'm sorry. Supervisor's name told me to go in with you guys, so I just did." I'm not sure if that completely diffused the situation, but he kept smiling and shaking his head. Then he seemed a bit uncomfortable with me shadowing him, so I told him I would be in the office or doing another task and left. Throughout the rest of the day, I had to interact with him for small things, so I gave him a sheepish smile, which he sort of returned. But otherwise, I was back to being kind of reserved and straightforward with him, only interacting when absolutely necessary because I was embarrassed. I guess it's safe to say that he's probably not interested in me at all, right? No antagonist here, don't sweat it too much. The situation definitely got a little awkward, but it doesn't necessarily mean he's not into you. He laughed it off and seemed a bit uncomfortable afterward, but it could just be because he was caught off guard. I'd say give it some time and see if things go back to normal between you two. Don't jump to conclusions just yet. My fiance just told me that she isn't sure she can see a future with me anymore. Here is a little background. My fiance and I have been together for 8 years, dating for 5 of those. We have a 6-year-old child who is very important to us. We have bought a house, cars, and adopted a dog together. A couple of weeks ago, we had a big fight after a night of drinking and stopped communicating. When I finally confronted her about everything that happened, she admitted that she is unhappy with everything, including herself and our relationship. She mentioned that she has been unhappy for a few years but hoped it would resolve itself. She expressed that we lack affection and the only thing we do well is sex. I believe some of her words were driven by anger, as we have had several conversations since then, most of them positive. However, she still feels that something is missing between us. It used to be there, but now she's unsure of what it is. Personally, I believe both of us have lost something. I had taken on a new job last year which ended up being a failure. As the primary breadwinner, I struggled to pay most of the bills, leaving me with little discretionary income. We used to have more fun and all our bills were paid. Feeling like a failure, I focused on making her life easier around the house, but distanced myself because I no longer felt like the man of the house. I think she also took a step back when I made the job change she had advised against. Additionally, she has been dealing with a difficult boss, being overworked without appreciation, and some health issues. She tells me that I am an excellent father and partner at home. She acknowledges that I treat her with respect and support her in achieving her goals. However, I've noticed some strange behavior from her recently, such as using edibles and anxiety medication, which is out of character since her father has had addiction issues, and deleting texts from male coworkers. She claims she isn't cheating, but I suspect an emotional connection. I am currently writing this from my parents' house, where I'm staying with our child to give her some space to think about whether she wants to continue trying or if she can't handle being with me anymore. What should I do? I want to give her space while also demonstrating that I can make improvements. How can I help her find herself again and figure out our relationship? Hey, it sounds like you're going through a tough time in your relationship. It's great that you're recognizing the issues and trying to make things better. Giving her space is important, but also make sure to communicate openly and honestly with her about your feelings and concerns. Maybe consider couples therapy to help you both navigate through this and find a way to reconnect. Wishing you all the best. Thanks for watching. When you subscribe, make sure to hit the bell to turn on notifications so you never miss a video. To finish listening to all the stories, check out the playlist in the description.